He honore, he kororia, he mai ngā rongo ki te mata o te whenua, he whakaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. Aro haina ngā taina me ngā tuakana, i tau mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa, i te rangi ki te taha o tō tātou nei awa o Waikato, arā i raro i te maunga o taupiri, e mihi ana ki a kouta katoa. Ka tīpako au te tihi o ngā kōrero nā kingi tāwhiao i tēnei wāhanga o te maramataka. Kua ara ake au i te papa o te whenua, kua ki te ai ngā whetū e tū takitaki ana, ko matariki te kairūri, kua tūtahi kei te taumata o te māngōroa. Nō reira, kei ngā iti, kei ngā rahi, kei ngā hauewha tēnā koutou. I'm disappointed that I can't join you in person, but I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to join Under Secretary Tirikatene, the MFAT team, and Te Taumata to share some opening comments today. As a region, we understand the importance of full participation in the economic, political, social, and environmental well-being of the region. The historical contribution of the resources within Tainui Waka have contributed to the nation's well-being, and were it not for the significant impact of Raupatu, Waikato would be in a far more advanced position to aid the nation's development. It's a little over a quarter of a century since Waikato-Tainui settled its Raupatu claim and providing the asset base to the iwi now managed by Tainui Group Holdings. The settlement has grown in excess of its original quantum, and importantly, the challenge before the tribe is to diversify the benefits to its people, marae, and an ecosystem that will maintain the sustainable well-being of the tribe. Waikato's success cannot be solely measured on its economic bottom line. It must pursue the ambition originally set out from our ancestors and carried forward by Te Ariki Nui Te Atairangi Kahu and my father when they challenged the tribe to pursue the legacy of Mana Motuhake. We've committed as a government to reconnecting with the world as we move forward from COVID-19. These are challenging times for trade globally. The impacts of the largest war in Europe since World War II reverberating around the globe, inflation increasing, supply chains struggling, and uncertainty around what the major powers will do, and the Pacific being a more contested region. Our trade recovery strategy has placed us in the best possible position to respond to these uncertainties, to recover from the impacts of the global pandemic and to seize new opportunities for exports and investment. It was designed to position Aotearoa well by providing the tools, resources and support, including a 216 million package to support our exporters. The government is committed to supporting a trade recovery that promotes sustainable and inclusive trade, boosts Māori involvement, lifts our exporters' capability and performance in markets, strengthens international and regional trade architecture, and builds resilience. Māori have a long history in international trade. The value of the Māori asset base is estimated at 68 billion and growing, with the Māori economy including a range of authorities, businesses and employers. The Māori economy is also diversifying with new investment in areas such as geothermal, digital services, education, tourism and housing. Many iwi, hapu and whānau are already involved in trade or on the path to getting involved. Our partnership with Māori on trade is a vital component of how our Trade for All agenda can reach deep into the future potential markets. You'll have noticed that since 2020 and sharply accelerated due to COVID, the government has encouraged New Zealand exporters to diversify their markets, and we cannot have all our eggs in the one basket. New Zealand exporters and Māori must ensure that we build greater economic resilience in what we produce and export. A progressive Trade for All agenda is about trade policy that shares the benefits of trade more widely amongst all New Zealanders, that recognises and respects those things that are important to Aotearoa, and that reflects the role of Māori as treaty partners in trade policy. A central point of Trade for All is ensuring Māori trade delivers for Māori, and that we continue building networks in Māoridom to better understand Māori interests in trade and where those benefits can be had. This year, we've completed negotiations on the UK FTA that will see lasting and meaningful benefits to Māori and help deliver a compelling package at the recent WTO Ministerial Conference known as MC12, including the new WTO Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. For the UK FTA, consistent with the government's approach to strengthen Māori-Crown relations, negotiators were deliberate in seeking specific and special recognition of Te Tiriti o Waitangi with the UK, noting in particular the historical and unique connection Māori have with the British Crown. This is one of the highest quality and most ambitious free trade agreements that Aotearoa has ever signed. The FTA Indigenous chapter we secured is world leading and will, I hope, just be the beginning. In Brussels last week, the Prime Minister and Minister O'Connor were able to conclude negotiations for our newest FTA with the EU, a fantastic result. The EU FTA is a high quality and inclusive free trade agreement that will unlock further significant opportunities for Aotearoa businesses in a market of close to 450 million consumers. As in all of New Zealand's free trade agreements concluded since 2001, the EU-NZ FTA preserves the unique status of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, ensuring the government's ability to meet its obligations to Māori. In addition to including the Te Tiriti exception, Māori economic and trade interests were prioritised in negotiations and are reflected across the FTA, including in outcomes across the digital, services, investment, trade and sustainable development, goods, market access and intellectual property chapters. Significantly, we were also able to secure a Māori trade and economic cooperation chapter, providing an important new platform with the EU to strengthen cooperation in areas of interest to Māori and to enable Māori to benefit from the agreement. Under Secretary Tirikatene will talk more about this later. However, thanks for the hard mahi I know Te Taumata has contributed to the success of the FTA. At MC12, Aotearoa played a leading role responding to a request by the WTO Director General. Minister O'Connor agreed to take up the role to facilitate the long-standing fish subsidies negotiations. Aotearoa has been pushing for fisheries subsidies disciplines over the last 20 years, and we're pleased to see the membership deliver on this across the WTO agenda. The new WTO agreement on fisheries subsidies will include disciplines on subsidies regarding illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, subsidies regarding overfished stocks, and subsidies provided to fishing taking place on the unregulated high seas. While there is still more that we can do in this space, I'm confident that this agreement will have a meaningful outcome to the sustainability of our fisheries resource. A number of other outcomes were achieved at MC12, including a trade response to the pandemic and declarations on food insecurity. These achievements reiterate the value of the WTO to Aotearoa and to the global community more broadly. There's a lot happening in the Māori trade area. So far, we've supported the Australia-Aotearoa Indigenous Collaboration Agreement, with work nearing completion towards a Canada-Aotearoa ICA. The Te Aratini program led by Pautahua lead Ngahiwi Tomoana at Expo 2021 in Dubai was a great success. There's also been a comprehensive work program to engage with Māori on FTA negotiations, such as those that I've referred to. The program, led by Under Secretary Tirikatene, has been important in progressing the trade and economic partnership between the Crown and Māori, and continues to increase opportunities for Māori engagement in trade policy developments. This year, Under Secretary Tirikatene updated the program to reflect the changing environment, with more emphasis on supporting Māori exports and leveraging trade agreements. We can also be proud of our achievements as hosts and chair of APEC 2021, where Māori were critical partners, and I look forward to that continuing in future APEC forums. A lasting outcome of APEC 2021 was the Indigenous Peoples Economic Trade Cooperation Arrangement, IPECTA, that recently came into effect. IPECTA is a new, first of its kind arrangement, which creates a framework for economies and Indigenous peoples to work together to increase trade and economic cooperation. This is an arrangement for Māori developed in partnership with Māori for the benefit of Māori and all Indigenous peoples. At this time, we face a challenging context for our foreign and trade policy ambitions. The two objectives are interdependent and require continual calibration against the values and interests we hold dear as a nation based in and of the Pacific. We've shown that we're committed to an independent foreign policy stance that will define what we stand for, a defender of the international rules and norms, a promoter of peace and universal human rights, committed multilateralists, and an advocate for inclusive economic opportunities and Indigenous values in modern foreign policy. Our trade recovery strategy is showing the benefits of forward thinking and allowing Aotearoa businesses to plan for a future post-COVID-19. Māori trade is a key facet of this planning and one I envisage growing continually. Although the world may seem to be moving from one crisis to the next, we've come through similar events in our past stronger and able to stand tall. Our trade relationships are strong and built on solid foundations, and I'm certain these will remain as we continue to move forward. Finally, all the best for your discussions over the next day or two. They're important, and what you contribute to our conversation in MFAT alongside each other to advance our opportunity as a nation really matters. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa. Thank you.